What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here. So apologies for how it looks behind me. It's really dark and gray out today, so not a lot of sunlight to come in from the window. But something hopefully that will bring a lot of sunlight into our lives is the Conference League final tomorrow up against Real Betis. It's going to be an interesting one. This is definitely the toughest challenge we're going to face in this competition, and hopefully we're up for it. I feel like I'm a lot more confident after the win on Sunday, just because the pressure is off with the Champions League secured. It doesn't feel like this is an absolute must-win match. It still feels like a match that we should be winning, and it does feel like if we don't, obviously it's going to be a little embarrassing. But I feel like the Champions League was the main focus. It was the first goal we needed to complete. This one kind of feels like a nice little bonus on top. So there are a lot of interesting stories with this final for Betis. From what I understand, this is their first European final in the modern day, at least since it's become UEFA. So they're going to have a lot of energy riding on this, but there's also going to be some pressure because most teams, their first final, it's always difficult. It's always difficult to cope with the atmosphere. It's always difficult to cope with the pressure that comes with being in a final. For us, we don't necessarily have a lot of final experience with the current team that we have. Obviously, we have a couple, but most of these players, they haven't been in finals consistently. The Carabao Cup final from last year is the only one that comes to mind. Most of the rest of these players, I don't think, have been involved in major cup finals like this. So it's going to be a couple of teams that are maybe not the most experienced in finals. For us, I think there's a little bit more pressure just being the team that's expected to win. But I also think not having the pressure of win this or we're not in Europe, I think that does help a lot. So there are a lot of interesting stories in this, but let's go ahead and hop into the lineups. I feel like I'm probably going to expect and also want a lot of the same players that are going to start tomorrow. But who knows? Maresca can sometimes pull some strange ones out of thin air. But starting in goal, this one I think is not only expected, but I'm okay with it, is Jorgensen in goal. Maresca's already confirmed he is going to play, and I feel like this tends to happen. You have your cup goalkeeper, you stick with him all the way through to the final because he's earned that. And Jorgensen, he's fine. I still do have a couple of issues with him. I think there are some gaps in his game. I think Sanchez has shown over the past few weeks that his shot stopping and his ability as a keeper, not necessarily with his feet, but there's a lot about him that makes him a solid keeper, not necessarily one that we want if we're going to be challenging for the title or Champions League, but he's a keeper that's capable, whereas Jorgensen, I think, is still a little young, still needs some time to grow. So hopefully this will give him some good experience, and we'll see, because he has made some good saves throughout the season, even if he's had a couple of howlers every now and then. Hopefully we'll see more of those great saves than we will see the howler moments. Getting into the back line, for me, I want to see pretty strong. Cucurella is an obvious one because we don't really have another option at left back. Also, I think he's very capable of shutting down Antony over there. The one gap that Cucurella still does have in his game is that there's a bit of naivete whenever he defends. He likes to go rushing into challenges. And if you have a winger that's clever enough to just flick it around and go past him, he can get beat a little easily like that. He's very determined, and he's definitely going to run down the winger if they do get past him. But I feel like that is something that does still need a little bit of refining in his defensive game. So it'll be really interesting to see how he does up against Antony, because I've not watched him since he's gone to Betis, but I've heard he's doing really well. So I don't know what type of player and what type of winger he will be up against Cucurella, but I feel like that'll be a good matchup, and we can keep him quiet. From what I understand, he is kind of the big player for them right now. So if we keep him quiet, I think we've got a good chance of winning this. On the right side, I'd prefer to see James. I could see Maresca deciding to go with Gusto, though, because he has been very, very strict about managing James's minutes. So I would not be too surprised if he decided to go with Gusto in this match, or even go with Caicedo over there and play like Dewsbury-Hall in midfield with Fernandez. I would not be surprised to see James not start this match, even though it's what I want to see, because I think James over the past couple of matches has shown his quality and shown the type of player that a lot of us want him to be. In the middle, this is really up in the air, because personally, I would like to see Colwill and Chalobah just like I wanted to see against Forest, but obviously we got Colwill and Tosin. And even though they did fine, obviously they kept the clean sheet, played pretty well, I still think Tosin had a couple of moments where he let Wood in behind way too easily, but they handled the job well. However, I still think Colwill and Chalobah is our best center pairing. I don't know what type of striker Betis have, so I don't know if Tosin's going to be in there for the height like he was for Wood. However, I would not be surprised at all if we saw Badiashile and Chalobah in, because I feel like Maresca's going to want to reward Betis Shield for playing in the Conference League this whole time. And I think Chalobah, since he didn't play on the weekend, there's a chance he might start there. I still don't really know what his future holds. I would love to see him stay. I think he should stay. However, it does feel like the board are ready and eager to get him out for PSR. Into the midfield, as long as Caicedo's in there for me, I feel like you could either go with Fernandez or Dewsbury-Hall. Fernandez is going to be the better option for sure, and he will make us stronger in there because I think on the ball he's better than Dewsbury-Hall. However, I think the main thing is just having Caicedo in there to be that defensive buffer in front of our back line. For Dewsbury-Hall, I'm obviously not a big fan of him. I still think it was ridiculous that we sold Gallagher and brought him in, even though Gallagher was a better version, much better version of a midfielder than he was. However, he's done well in the Conference League. I would not be opposed to Maresca rewarding him for his good performances in this tournament with a start. But I think if you're going to start him anywhere, that's where it would be, alongside Caicedo in the middle. Or, like I said, if he's going to decide to put Caicedo at right back and invert him into the midfield, I could see him starting alongside Fernandez in there too. So as long as it's one of those two options, I'd be okay. But my preference, if we're going to be strong, if we're going to make sure we put out our best 11 to make sure we win, my preference is obviously that we put out Caicedo and Fernandez. That is our strongest two since Lavia is not available for the competition. Into the front four, I think the biggest thing here, Palmer and Jackson need to start. And I don't see any reason why Maresca wouldn't. Like, there's really no reason at all that both of them should not be starting, unless there's an injury to either of them in this short amount of time. But Palmer and Jackson are the two that need to play there. Palmer is better whenever Jackson's up there. Jackson obviously is going to be looking to rectify what happened at Newcastle. And I just think Jackson makes us a better team overall because of how he plays up there. Obviously, I know I'm in the minority on that, but I think the way he moves and the runs he makes, it's not your typical number 9 breaking into the box, finding the end of crosses. Obviously, he's not good at that part of it, but he makes good runs to draw defenders away. He puts good pressure on the defense, and it opens up space for the players around him. It's why most of our attackers are not scoring whenever he doesn't play. It's why Cucurella, or in the Forest match, Colwill, why those are the players that score whenever Jackson's not available, because without a true striker, a proper striker who makes striker-like runs, I don't think that 3 in behind the striker, I don't think they're as effective. And honestly, I just want Palmer to get a chance to get his confidence back. Play in this match, have Jackson up there, running around the defense, making runs in behind. I don't know if they're going to give us a whole lot of space to get in behind, but just making runs to put the defenders off, putting pressure on the defense, and giving Palmer that space to operate in there. On the wings, it's going to be kind of iffy. Personally, I think Betis are more than likely going to try to sit in against us. And with that in mind, I think the two that I want to see on the wings are Sancho and Mediaweke. Both of them are effective at trying to run at defenders in tight spaces, cut inside, have those shots that maybe you just need from outside the box because we're not able to pass our way into the box. Neto is much more of the type of player that you want to have if there's going to be a lot of space to run, and I don't think we're going to have that tomorrow. So Sancho and Mediaweke are the two that personally I would go with. Maybe an outside shout for George just because he's also had a pretty decent run in this tournament. But personally, I'm not entirely sure what Maresca's going to do with that. If I had to guess, I'd say he'd probably go with Sancho and Mediaweke. But those are my thoughts on my preferred lineup and also kind of what I'm expecting out of Maresca. It's hard because I want to just put up a lineup and say, this is what I expect from Maresca. But truth be told, I expect a few different things from Maresca. I'm never entirely sure what he's going to put out. I just have a general idea. I kind of know what he's going to go for. I kind of have an idea of what he's going to be looking for. I feel like in the Conference League it's a little bit more difficult to predict, especially in the final, because there's a chance he might be rewarding some of these players that brought us here. But since I just started doing these previews, I'm hoping to maybe streamline this a little bit more in future previews for next season especially. But looking at the game, kind of what I'm expecting and what I'm hoping for. What I'm hoping for is just a comfortable win. We put 2 in early, maybe get a third in the second half, and just comfortably cruise through, don't have any issues. Defensively, just shut them down, make sure they only have shots from like outside the box. Yes, that sets up for a chance of a screamer, but I feel like that's a lot less likely than if we are constantly letting them get inside the box and have chances to run in behind our defense, because we know that's likely to happen. What I'm expecting, if I'm being honest, and knowing that Betis are a pretty solid team who have done well for themselves this season and have pulled off some shock results even in Spain, I expect this to be a pretty close game. I'm thinking probably no goals in the first half, maybe an early goal for us in the second, maybe a goal somewhere about halfway through the second half for them, possibly a late goal for us. I'm expecting a win for us, but I don't think it's going to be clear cut. I would like it to be clear cut because I'd like to just comfortably roll through this final and not have any nerves in the pit of my stomach, but I'm not expecting that. I'm expecting Betis will give us a game. 2-1 is my predicted result. All the goals coming in the second half. The winner for us coming real late, maybe even in stoppage time. Just something to maybe give us an exciting finish to the game. But with all that being said, I think that's about it for this preview. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What do you expect to see tomorrow? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Chelsea previews and reviews. Also, check out the channel. We have a lot of other reviews on there as well. Some Let's Plays, so check those out if you have time. But until next time, I hope you guys have a great day. I will talk to y'all later. Peace out.